Welcome to Road2Billions Podcast, the mentality of an entrepreneur. With your host, Moise Bertrand.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Moise Bertrand, your host of Road2Billions Podcast. I'm grateful for you guys, and I honestly ask you guys to just do one thing before you listen to the podcast fully. Just subscribe and rate and share this podcast for everybody because, I'm honestly just trying to drop gems and, help society and my community, of course, just do well in life. And this is the only way I can get that word out there. So I really appreciate you guys. But today's podcast, I'm really just going to talk about what's on the other side of fear. And I chose this, title just because sometimes fear is what we call a mental mindset. Like, I really understand what people mean by you are just the prisoner of your own mind. And if you're fearful of something, you create this false narrative that this is what this is about. Like anything you're fearful of, you create a false narrative about it of being bigger than what it is or being 10 times or 100 times bigger than what it is. And people are fearful because they don't really know the unknown. They don't really know the answer to what could happen or what's the mystery behind this. And that creates a sense of withdrawal and fear. And I try to tell people, like, if you're afraid to chase your dreams, you're never going to make it big in life. Because it was times where I probably had, I'm not going to lie to you guys, when I was starting business my sophomore year, and when I was joining a fraternity, I had probably 30 cents in my account, $1 in my account. And I'm not bullshitting you guys. This is something that happened in college. Like, obviously, I had to figure out what the hell I was going to do because rent was going to be paid real soon. And I was just more so just like, okay, I got to figure this shit out. And I literally went ahead and I just started doing homework for people I knew. I knew how to do something very specific in college, and that was just put together people. I know how to put together people very, very effortlessly. Like I could do that, at any time in my life. I could always bring a group together and figure out how to accomplish a goal. And I try to tell people that if you're fearful of doing things, right? If you're fearful of going to the edge of life, of doing things that normal people wouldn't do, or not normal, but, the person who isn't really believing in themselves wouldn't do, it creates a false narrative that the worst could happen. And I'm telling you, people, fear is a beautiful thing because once you face it and once you be like, man, whatever, man, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. It's nothing really to be fearful about. The hard part is out the way. Like, you got the hard part out the way and just facing it. And I faced a lot of fears when I was growing up because I was always fear of, I'm not going to be able to move out the city. I'm not going to be able to go to college. I was having fears of if. Like, I always had a fear of if. And once I countered that if with confidence, and I really went head to head with certain things just became a false narrative, and I was able to wipe it clean. And I was like, this is what it is. Really, it's not even that bad. But I try to tell people most of the time, you have to create yourself. You have to create an image of yourself. And that image is very particular of how you want your life to be lived. You have to understand that, people only know what they want. Like, I can't tell you guys what you really want in life because you guys are only yourselves. You guys are your own mind. You guys know what your heart relies on. So when I tell people, what are you afraid of? And they tell me that this and this and that, I'm like, why? They be like, I just don't know but you just told me you don't know. So why not go for it? And, it's easy. It's easier said than done. But honestly, you guys, for everybody who's listening to this podcast, I'm urging you to do something you're very afraid of. Like, just do it. Like, just get the shit out the way because you're waiting around for someone to give you an okay with it. You're waiting around for this thing never to happen. And it's never going to happen. Like, I told so many people that, some of us going to become millionaires and some of us going to become billionaires. But one or the other, we're hitting a goal. Like, we're going to hit this goal. One of us are going to hit a goal. And whatever I tell people becomes a fruition because I put that energy out there because I'm not afraid of telling people this is going to happen. And the way it's going to happen is because we're going to hit it head on. That's the only way we're going to get it out the way. And people don't really have that mindset when it comes to being tenacious with their goals because they become fearful of what other people are going to say or what could happen. It's just a false narrative, people. So many people told me before, what makes you different? And I tell people all the time, I'm here speaking to you. And the only thing that I could tell you that makes me different is that if I don't see a L in no situation I took in life, every L I took, or what people will say, oh, you took an L, I never looked at it like that. I never looked at anything like a regret or a loss. I looked at it everything like a lesson being learned. Like, what did this teach me as a lesson? What did I learn from this? And I took that with a grain of salt, and I really ran with it because I tell people I'm not a person who typically speaks on their fears because I try to handle everything as a whole. I look at everything from all four sides of the angle, from all angles, really. But it's really more so just taking what I know already in my previous experience in life and just saying, what could I do to implement that in this life? Like, I feel like we all go through various stages in lives, and we all have a breaking stage and a turning point stage and a crossroad stage. And we all are fearful of what happens next after this age or after this 5-year or 10-year span. And it's just more so us thinking about what's the worst case. And I believe that what you plant today is only going to be what blossoms tomorrow. You know, I'm being 100. So if you're fearful of one thing, you're forever going to be fearful of that the rest of your life. But you have to know how to just go ahead and just knock that shit the fuck out. Like, you just have to be able to sit in the paint and just be like, okay, the fear is what I'm only manifesting in my head, and it's not real. This shit is not real. And you have to understand that people just don't understand, you know, being someone who's bold and being confident isn't a bad thing. It just means that you just are comfortable being uncomfortable, because fear isn't something we all just don't have. It's there for a reason. It's because we want to see how much of our faith is pushed and how much do we believe in ourselves to execute that. But people fall victim, and we all fell victim to fear or any past transgressions, and we all fell victim to just society thoughts. But in reality, bro, like, I honestly tell everybody all the time, like, the best thing I ever did was invest in real estate, invest in myself, and invest in my mindset. I've been buying more books, you guys, and I just feel more open. I feel like a lot of people should just be more creative with their time and just wasting it. I feel like if a lot of my generation actually manifested and actually put time into their craft and didn't bullshit a lot of the time that they have now, that's leisure time, and they don't bullshit it, a lot of my peers would be more of a influence and person who's doing really well in the community. But some people, they're caught up in fear. They're caught up in, nah, that's not for me. And I try to give people courage, like, listen, you got this shit. Like, there's 7.8 billion people in the world, and you telling me you're afraid to do something. You're afraid, honestly, to do something. And you telling me no one ever has tried it, but you're afraid to do it. You're afraid to really put yourself out there. You're afraid. You're afraid. And I tell people that. I say, you're afraid. But when I try to not push people too much to the limit, because, you know, Albert Einstein said, if you know the answer to something and you believe you do know, don't quote me, you know, that's not the exact quote, but I'm going to run it back to you guys. This is me paraphrasing it. You know, he obviously said that if you know something, if you believe that you could do something, you're right. And if you believe you can't do something, you're right still, you know, because you only know you. So I try to tell people, you know, only if you really committed to doing this, do you. Only if you know you really want to do this, you know, you're going to really put the work in, do that. But don't be fearful of what you don't know. And that's the only thing I want to explain to you guys, because fear is just something I don't wish on nobody. I feel like everybody should just tackle it and keep doing things that they're, you know, possibly fearful of. And then eventually it just turns into like a thought. I was once afraid, but until I tackled that, things became really well. So I appreciate you guys. I kind of cut the podcast short because that was just something I just want to run by you guys very briefly. But all in all, man, I appreciate you guys for listening to the podcast. Write down your fears. And fear is not something that lives. It's something that you create in your own mind. So unless you really tackle it, unless you really tell yourself this shit don't exist, it's forever going to be there. But all in all, write down some things you're afraid to do. Try to take it day by day by doing it. And once you knock that out, you're going to feel so much better, you guys. So I appreciate you guys for listening to Road2Billions Podcast. Subscribe and share. Thank you guys. Have a great day.